Good evening, welcome. We are on the fourth installment of Hilchos Pesach. But before we begin, being that we're all dealing with the coronavirus, to the extent that you probably don't even want to hear any more about it, I would like to share with you a saying from the Baal Shem Tov. David HaMelech, King David, says in Tehillim, Hashem tzilcha, meaning that Hashem is your shadow. Now, simply what this means is that Hashem is always with you. Hashem is always protecting you. Hashem is like your shadow, just like your shadow is always with you. Similarly, we're never alone. Hashem is always with us on our journey. He's watching us, He's protecting us, etc. However, the Baal Shem Tov explains that this verse in Tehillim, in Psalms from King David, could be taken even deeper. And on a deeper level, what this represents is Hashem is your shadow. Let's analyze a shadow for a moment. The way a shadow works is it mimics everything that you do. If you move your hand in one direction, the shadow does the same thing. If you take a step forward, it does the same thing. If you ever had the experience of going for a walk at certain times of the day when the shadow is there, and if you remember as a little kid, you start to chase your shadow, and then you realize that you can't really chase it because wherever you go, it goes along, and so on. But the idea is that it reflects, it copies, it mimics everything that you're doing. And Baal Shem Tov explained that Hashem operates in a very similar way. He's like your shadow. The way you behave, that's the way He behaves back towards you. Meaning, if a person does something positive, Hashem also reacts in a positive way. And Baal Shem Tov goes on to tell us that when it comes to joy, when it comes to happiness, if a person is joyous, then it causes Hashem to be joyous. If you're angry, if you're sad, in a sense, Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is your shadow. He shadows that emotion, and He does the same thing. He now is also sad or also angry, etc. God forbid. So when you're happy, you cause Hashem to be happy. Now what happens when Hashem is happy? When God is joyous? So look at a human. When a person is happy, when a person is in a good mood, he's more likely to do things that otherwise he wouldn't do, or perhaps he feels that it's not, the person's not deserving. Imagine you come to somebody and you ask them for a favor, and they're in a rotten mood. Chances of them willing to help you or do something for you or go out of their way, especially if you don't deserve it, are very slim because they're in a bad mood. Contrast that with going over to somebody while they're in a happy, excited mood. They're really feeling good. And you ask them for a favor. They're much more likely to do it for you. Why? Because they're happy. It's just the nature of people. When you're happy, you're much more giving. When you're happy, you're much more foregoing. You're different. So the Baal Shem Tov says that when a person is happy, it causes Hashem to be happy. When Hashem is happy, He reacts towards us in a very happy way. He doesn't look, do you deserve it? Do you not deserve it? Are you perfect? Are you not perfect? Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. All that becomes irrelevant. Why? Because He's in a good mood. And Baal Shem Tov says you could cause Hashem to be in a good mood, so to speak. He's your shadow. If you're happy, He'll be happy. So as we face these unknown and perhaps overwhelming times, we should keep in mind that our happiness is not just beneficial for ourselves, but it causes those around us. And most important, it causes a cosmic happiness. And Hashem responds in a special way. So let's get to Hilchos Pesach now. We are up to the halachas of Erev Pesach. The day of Pesach, which this year is Wednesday, April 8th. We have a lot of visitors today because of the quarantine situation, so to speak. And we'll have different, not interruptions, but additions to our class. So the laws of Erev Pesach. We don't say Mizmor L'Seida and not Lam Natseach. These are two sections of the davening. One we say after Baruch She'amar. We don't say that on Erev Pesach because it was a chametz offering, and it's a chametz offering, and it was it went on much later, past the morning, past the time when you're allowed to have chametz. Mutter lechol chametz rak ad shlisha yom. Now you're only allowed to eat chametz, even though Pesach doesn't begin Wednesday night of April 8th this year, but we have to stop eating chametz by 10:40 a.m. This year it's 10:40 a.m. You cannot eat any more chametz. Burning of the chametz, meaning deriving any benefit from the chametz, you have to sell your chametz or burn your chametz or both before that time, which is 11:46. 10:40 is the final time to eat chametz, and 11:46 is the final time to have benefit from the chametz. Now, don't wait for the last minute. You should sell your chametz. You could do it online, especially these days. I'll post a link in the YouTube description later. But you could sell your chametz online. You could do it even today. You don't have to wait till the last day. But the final time, to sell your chametz is before the time of 11:46. Now, as we know, chametz is forbidden to eat, and chametz is forbidden to derive benefit from. And benefit includes owning it, enjoying it in any type of manner. So you have to burn it or sell it before that time. From midday and on, it's forbidden to do any types of work. The only things you're allowed to do are the types of work which would be permissible during Chol Hamoed. Now, the Pesach consists of 8 days. The first 2 days are a Yantif, which is forbidden with any type of work, just like a Rosh Hashanah or a Shavuos would be. Okay? You can't write, you can't travel, you can't handle money, you can't light a fire, and so on. Chol Hamoed, the intermediate days, they're still Pesach. You still cannot have any types of chametz. You can't eat that. But as far as working, as far as driving, as far as handling money and so on, that would be allowed. So from midday, Erev Pesach, a person is not allowed to do any work which he wouldn't be able to do on Chol Hamoed. By the way, in a real yeshiva, when you learn, there's other noise going on. It's part of the environment of the learning. So the different noises that you hear in the background, it all adds to our learning experience. And for those that want to follow along, we're doing Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We're on Siman Kuf Yud Gimel, which is 113, the laws of Erev Pesach and baking matzahs. Now, taking haircuts and cutting one's nails is a mitzvah to do before every Yom Tov. It's actually a mitzvah to do before Shabbos. So before Pesach, it's a mitzvah to get a haircut and to cut your nails. But it must be done before midday. It has to be before Chatzos. If you forgot, for whatever reason, you were busy, and you realize, hey, it's midday and you want to cut your nails, because you won't be allowed to cut your nails all the way till the end of Pesach. Okay? So you could do it after midday, but a haircut, you're not allowed to get a haircut unless you could find someone which is not Jewish, meaning they're not required to keep the laws. They don't do Pesach. They could give you a haircut before, even though it's after midday. But prefer it is. Erev Pesach is considered to be a very special time. And it's, I don't want to call it a mini holiday, but we already can't have chametz, and we can't, and after midday, you don't do any types of work which would be prohibited on Chol Hamoed itself. Sif Hey. Another very interesting law. You're not allowed to eat matzah. It's prohibited to eat matzah at Erev Pesach. And the reason is because you want to come to the Yontif, to the Seder, with an appetite for matzah. You want to be able to eat the matzah. You want to enjoy the matzah. Not only do you not eat it the day of Pesach, which that's halachically prohibited, it's a prohibition, but we actually, some people do it, stop eating matzah from the first day of the month of Nisan, which is this Thursday. Others will, and that's the Chabad custom, we stop eating matzah from Purim, 30 days before we stop eating matzah. And again, the point is that when we come to Pesach, it should be special. It's not just another bread, but we're expressing that we're doing it specifically because it's a mitzvah and it's the Yom Tov of Pesach, and we're celebrating the fact that we went out of Mitzrayim. So if you just have matzah every morning, you have to stop, and at Erev Pesach, you're not allowed to have it. Even little children, as long as they understand the concept that Pesach is coming and it's a holiday and it's going to be special, etc., we went out of Mitzrayim, as they should also not eat matzah on Erev Pesach. So Wednesday, April 8th, although we have plenty of matzah, and that's what's available, and your house is already all clean for Pesach, your house is already all clean for Pesach, nonetheless, don't eat matzah on that day at all, even for little children. Okay. Now, what about a dish that you prepare with matzah mel? Something, give me the brush. A dish that you prepare with matzah mel. When you have something that matzah balls. Now, the Hasidic custom is we don't have any dish on Pesach until the 8th day. We don't have any dishes on Pesach that have any mixture of matzah in them. It's called gebrachts or shruya. But halachically, you're technically allowed. So Erev Pesach, we're not allowed to have matzah itself. But what about a mixture that has matzah mel in it? That would be something which would be allowed only until the 10th hour. After the 10th hour, which is, let's just say, probably around 4 o'clock or so, it's the end of the beginning of the last quarter of the day of sunlight. Then it would be prohibited to have even not real matzah. It just has matzah in the item that you have. After that time, on Erev Pesach, all you could technically have is some fruit, meat, or fish, because you can't have matzah, and you don't have items that go on the Seder plate. So what you're limited to is various types of foods that you can have up until when Yom Tov begins. Now, a person should be very careful, says the Shulchan Aruch, the Yizoher, be really careful. Don't fill up your stomach with food in order that you should have some appetite at night when the Seder comes. You're going to taste every dish, and I don't mean just taste it, but take heavy portions of every dish that's being prepared. By the time the Seder comes, you're not just, you're not interested in eating. You have you should not be full, so you should have an appetite to eat. Another very important mitzvah, a law, habicherim, when the firstborn sons have a mitzvah to fast Erev Pesach. It's special to remember the miracle that Hashem did, that the firstborns of the Egyptians were killed, were smitten in the 10th plague, and the Jewish firstborns were spared. So to remember that, we fast on this day of Erev Pesach. It doesn't matter if you're a firstborn from the father's side or the mother's side, they should fast on Erev Pesach. Now, the accepted custom is that we hear a siyum. A siyum is when you conclude learning a whole Masechta. Now, learning a volume of the Talmud, learning anything brings joy. But concluding any part of Torah, but concluding a full volume of the Talmud, the Masechta, is a real cause for celebration. It's like a holiday. And therefore, if you listen, either you finish it yourself or you partake with somebody else that's finishing a whole volume of the Talmud, now it's a happy time and you're allowed to eat, even if you're fasting. It's not such a strict fast like Tisha B'Av or obviously Yom Kippur or other fast days. And if you conclude a Masechta of learning, of Talmud, of Gemara, then you're allowed to eat. Then what we do is we have you could break your fast if you're doing the fast of the firstborn. Now, there are those that have a custom that they bake matzah Erev Pesach. This probably does not apply to most people here, but they bake matzah Erev Pesach at the time when the Korban Pesach was brought, when Pesach offering was brought during the times of the Beis HaMikdash. So having baking matzah then is a very special mitzvah. However, it's called matzah's mitzvah. However, there's a problem with that because when you bake matzah, you have inadvertently pieces of dough which don't get baked. They fall to the ground, the leftovers, and the bottom, whatever it may be. And there's a special procedure how to do that so you don't have chametz. Because again, after the 4th hour, which is 11:46 this year, you can't derive any benefit from chametz. So, yeah, Yitzhak is saying hi, and I encourage everyone to say hi, wave, put your thumbs up if you like the video, share it, and put your comments in. But the idea here is that when you bake matzah Erev Pesach, you have to be very careful that you don't cause chametz, which is basically impossible. And therefore, what you do is you're mevatel, you nullify. We spoke about this in yesterday's class and the prior Pesach classes. You take you make a declaration that all this chametz, which is going to come about from your preparing of the matzah for Pesach should become null and void, and you're disowning it, and it has no value to you whatsoever. And by doing that, you're spared from owning chametz, which comes about from your process of baking matzah on Pesach. The same apply and erev Pesach. The same applies. The dishes, you have a mixing bowl, you have to wash those things. There's real chametz potentially in there after 18 minutes or so from the flour and the water being together. So what you do is you make sure that you wash it out and you pour that water down a drain. It's important. Again, this probably doesn't apply to most people here, but when you're baking matzah erev Pesach, which I never experienced myself, you do that make sure the floor is not a stone floor, it's more of earth, so that it gets absorbed. Anything which gets poured onto it actually doesn't stay there, because again, you can't own any chametz, you can't have any chametz on Pesach. Friends, before we conclude, I want to just take a moment, and if you have any questions about what we learned, or general questions for that matter, please feel free to ask. We're on the topic of Hilchos Pesach. We're definitely shopping for Pesach, best as we can. We're preparing for Pesach. Even someone is getting a hat for Pesach. And feel free. I'm here for you. Sei gesund. Have a wonderful evening. And I look forward to learning together tomorrow.